Hello, everyone. This is Crystal Moore, VP of Professional Development from ACCE. Thank you for joining our webinar today, Returning to the Office. Today we have our speaker, Liz Horton, the Senior VP of Operations of the Greenville Chamber of Commerce. Liz, I'm going to turn it over to you. You can go ahead with the webinar.
Thank you, Crystal. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to be with you today to talk a little bit about our recent return to the office and the plans and steps that we took to get where we are currently. Crystal did send an outline of some things that she wanted me to cover today. So to put a face with a name, but just a little bit about our chamber. I am in Greenville, South Carolina. We have a population in our city of 68,000 and in our entire service area of 523,000. We have a total budget of around $4.1 million with around 1,800 investors and a dues volume of 1.4 million. We have 24 full-time staff members and 2 part-time team members. Of course, currently we still have 7 of our team members that are on furlough. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move on. Our office building, last November, we actually sold a building that we owned, was 24,000 square feet, and moved into a downtown office building in the heart of our downtown, and we now lease around 10,000 square feet. We do have a mixture of open and closed office space, which I think is the norm for a lot of folks these days, which also played into our planning as we were planning to return to the office. So Crystal shared some questions with me in advance that she wanted me to cover today. The first was being, what was our immediate action once the stay-at-home order was announced? For the first month, all of our team members worked from home, the entire staff. Fortunately, we all have laptops already, and we do have VPNs, so we can work anywhere that there's internet service. We also have a phone system that allows for voicemails to be received via email. We can make phone calls from an app on our phone that looks like you're dialing from your office. And most of our team members have worked from home from time to time prior to the stay-at-home order, so the transition was fairly smooth for our team. Of course, after the first month, after evaluating financials and doing some projections, we did have to make the difficult decision to place 8 of our team members on furlough. Of course, we did continue to pay their benefits during that time. All of our remaining staff, of course, took a 10% pay reduction. We've suspended cell phone reimbursements and 401k matches temporarily. And of course, the way we chose to place the team members on furlough were the staff members who had the most customer-facing responsibilities. Of course, now working on a plan to begin bringing our team members back. We actually brought 1 back last week. We have another 2 that are starting back in August. We're primarily focusing and prioritizing those team members on the ones who can assist with revenue retention and generation. Next, how did we manage our staff remotely? Our chamber is currently KPI outcomes driven. So we have a self-managed PTO system in place and do not work on accrual. So we don't micromanage our staff, and we just look at the work that is produced and the outcomes and how they're tracking to their KPIs. Projects have still been completed on time and with great attention to detail and accuracy, and our output has not declined. They've been highly productive during this time period and have pivoted beautifully considering the circumstances. We've created some new programming, of course, and shifted existing programming to virtual formats. We've redirected some of our advocacy efforts to focus on issues currently affecting our businesses in the wake of COVID-19, which has allowed us to continue with investor recruitment, fortunately. So how did we create our return to the office plan? Well, essentially we followed 5 key steps, and I'll run through those quickly. First, and probably one of the most important steps during the whole process is to research and learn. Coronavirus has brought a whole new perspective to the way we go about our daily lives, and staying up to date and learning about what's happening around the world is crucial. There's a lot of information out there about COVID-19 and many different opinions about what has happened and what's going on. So it's very important to focus on the most reputable and reliable sources to find the right guidance for your chamber. Government agencies and public health organizations are the best places to find that accurate information. We considered it to be more reliable. Some of the resources that we utilized were the White House guidelines that were released with input from the CDC that had suggested gating criteria for phased reopening. We also utilized the Safe Work Playbook from Lear Manufacturing, which they made available to others to utilize. Of course, CDC recommendations from South Carolina's Department of Health and Environmental Control, and also consultations with our HR consultant. Of course, we had to tailor the plan to our work environment and local and executive orders and ordinances. Number two, of course, is to plan. Just like when the coronavirus outbreak started, we all had to create an outbreak response plan. Well, now it's important for us to create a reopening plan as well. And we were very intentional in saying return to the office when naming our plan versus return to work, because our team has been working the entire time. So creating your reopening plan will require a lot of internal and external assessments of several factors that could impact your success in moving forward. For example, regulations, safety, hygiene practices, PPE and access to PPE, social distancing and employee health monitoring and security. Number three, you're going to want to assess your business. Once you've determined the new precautions and protocols your chamber will need to follow, it's time to consider your operational needs. From limited funding to supply chain disruptions, you may encounter some challenges as you seek to ramp up your core business activities. I know in the beginning, prior to our opening, we had to delay our opening a little bit because we couldn't find the appropriate cleaning supplies to keep our office sanitized. And so we did delay that somewhat, but I think that has started to improve. But we did find it challenging to get the necessary supplies in stock. Number four, you're going to want to communicate. You'll need to communicate plans likely to several different audiences, and each one requires a tailored approach to ensure the right message is delivered and received properly. Communication is one of the key marketing strategies that should be utilized during this time, and as part of your communications, you'll need to set clear and accurate expectations with those who interact with your business. Your employees and customers will need to know what to expect from you as you execute your reopening plan. For example, if people are not going to be directly answering the phone, what are your voicemail messaging going to say? Messaging on your website, communication with your investors who get services from you like certificates of origin. That's one example for us. We do have the opportunity for our businesses who utilize certificate of origin to get those electronically through a partnership with the American World Trade Chamber. However, some of our businesses still prefer to have them done by the local chamber, and the countries that they ship to prefer that as well. So for those businesses, we arranged for them to ship either FedEx or UPS envelopes and mailing labels, and then they email me when they want something processed. I go to the office, print them, certify them, and send them back to them in the mailers that they provided, and it's worked out very well. We have not had to disrupt anyone's business operations due to our office being closed to outside visitors. Number five is execution. So when your research, planning, and preparations are all complete, it's time to put your strategy into motion, keeping in mind that the primary responsibility of employers is to provide a safe work environment for their employees, especially in the midst of the pandemic. Social distancing requirements will likely be expected to remain in the foreseeable future, and employers will need to consider not only social distancing requirements for their employees, but also both scheduled and unexpected arrivals of clients and vendors to your location. A few things to consider in that regard: changing the layout of workspaces. To comply with the 6 feet of space that social distancing requires, some businesses may need to alter the layout of their operations. If you have an open floor plan with a bullpen of desks, for example, those workplaces would need to be spread apart, or if you do not have the ability to do that, you may need to consider staggering your staff. This is what we have done in our office. We do have a team A and team B, and the teams were based on the location of their workspace within our office, and we have a rotating work schedule from week to week. However, during our phase 1, employees can still choose to work from home if they want or need to, particularly if they're at high risk. And also we have several staff members who have childcare issues that have impacted their ability to come into the office, and we're being flexible and allowing those folks to continue to work from home as well. The location of your reception desks in relation to entry doors should also be considered. There are plexiglass barriers that can be ordered to help protect those team members when interacting with guests to your office. Other things to consider are conference rooms should be rearranged with seating removed to only allow for the appropriate number of people for the size of the space to allow for proper distancing. Along with changing your workspace layout, common areas and break rooms may also need to be either closed off or, depending on the size, have access limited to a certain number of employees at a time. You might want to consider putting up signage to promote and ensure proper social distancing, mask wearing, hand hygiene, etc. Investing in resources. Of course, you're going to have to invest in disinfectant wipes, hand sanitizer, tissue, gloves, and masks for your employees. Consider installing hand sanitizer dispensers in heavily trafficked areas, and provide resources to educate your team on how to properly wear PPE to ensure their safety. Cleaning the workplace. Frequently touched surfaces around the office will have to be disinfected regularly. This is computer keyboards, door handles, chairs, light switches, phones, countertops, coffee makers, water coolers, refrigerator handles. And you need to help create a culture of cleanliness and encourage employees to practice respiratory etiquette, like covering sneezes and coughs. We made sure that every team member had tissues on their desk, hand sanitizer. We've got the little devices that they can use to push elevator buttons. We put masks on everyone's desk, and encourage them to avoid physical contact whenever they can. We do have a daily rotation schedule for disinfecting high-touch surfaces amongst our team members, and we also ask that employees wash their hands before touching like refrigerator doors, coffee makers, water coolers, and for the time being to only use disposable cups at the water cooler and get a clean one with each visit versus refilling reusable bottles. I know that's not the best thing for the environment, but we felt like with the health issue, that was the best thing to do at this time. You're also going to want to manage your visitors. Although it's probably best to continue to utilize video conferencing systems whenever possible, when you do finally open your office to visitors and have meetings in person again, consider offering hand sanitizer, having disposable masks available, practice social distancing, and of course, once they leave, we wipe down all surfaces that were touched. And you may want to feature signage outside of your office that directs visitors where to enter and exit, and of your safety requirements and protocols. So if you want to require all visitors to your office to use a mask and have those available on hand, you would want to let them know that. Our office is currently not open to outside visitors and guests. It's just open for team members. We will likely not be open to visitors and outside guests for a while, at least while we're in the phase 1 of our return to the office plan. But I know some organizations don't have that ability to do so. So these are just some measures you can put in place. Along with health and safety issues in the office, employers also need to continue to initiate work policies and procedures to minimize exposure and help ease your workforce back into performing their daily tasks. First and foremost, developing an effective return to the office program requires us to closely monitor recent news in our locations and the most recent state and local regulations. As you all know, they're changing daily. As the news and laws in your location change, you also need to be able to change your policies and procedures. Other things to consider are sick leave policies, if you have those, teleworking policies to include vulnerabilities with your current network systems and security, possibly staggering shift times to reduce the number of staff in the workplace at one time, whether or not you have employees who are high risk due to their age or pre-existing conditions. Do your employees have children at home due to school closures? Something that we felt was very important is that we wanted to support households and not just employees during this time. Work may be open, but schools and elderly care may not be. or may have altered schedules come fall. Studies show that 67% of American children under the age of 6 have all available parents participating in the workforce. So access to childcare could be an issue for some of your team members. And as employee retainment is crucial during an economic downturn, it's vital to listen to the concerns of your employees. Consider their feedback when evaluating your organization's needs and the potential risks of requiring your staff to return to the workplace. One thing that is true across the board is that every business, including chambers, face a tremendous challenge as our nation begins the path to recovery while still facing the health threat that this virus poses. Reopening and adjusting to the new normal will be a very tedious process with several steps to take, from researching to communicating to executing plans to pivoting strategically. The last thing I would say is that as you create a plan, try to create and deploy one that is agile and elastic. Your plan should allow for flexibility, allow you to move backwards or forwards based on the severity and volume of COVID-19 cases within your region and the status of any existing orders and ordinances in your state of operation. I do believe that ACCE is going to share our plan with you all. I do want to say that it is a fluid document and we are continuously making changes as conditions warrant. At this time, I think we will open the floor to any questions or comments that you all may have.
Hey Liz, this is Crystal. We did get one comment, and you may have said this at the beginning, they may have come in late, but how large is your staff and how many square feet do you have? Offices or open air area, if you could comment on those.
Yes, we do have 24 full-time staff members and 2 part-time. And we are in a 10,000 square foot office space inside of another building with several tenants. And we do have a mixture of open bullpen cubicle style seating as well as closed offices. So we had to take all of those things into consideration when doing our plan. I will say that something else that you all would need to consider if you are in a situation like we are, and I believe ACCE has had this issue, if you are in a building with other tenants, our landlord fortunately has taken a lot of steps and measures to protect their tenants and visitors to our building. They have signage and stickers on the floor to mark for appropriate social distancing, signage that only 2 people per elevator at a time, hand sanitizer dispensers are prominently displayed all throughout the space. They have stepped up the janitorial services and high-touch areas like elevator buttons and restrooms are cleaned quite frequently during the day. So we are very fortunate in that regard, but I do know that some folks are not so fortunate and they have are in buildings where the landlord is leaving it up to each individual tenant to do their own or employ their own safety measures. So that's something to consider as well.
Liz, I think that, for the most part, a lot of us are kind of in the same boat where we're kind of waiting and watching. I know ACCE, we have staff members that live throughout the tri-state area, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So as you know, different states, different counties can have different rules. And I think that our CEO is just kind of, because we are working from home right now and we have the remote work plan in place, but we really are waiting to see how everything pans out with these resurges of COVID. We don't want to come back into the office and then have to come back out, but I think your plan is really good in the sense that it has phases where you can go back and forth. You're nimble enough to go from phase 1 to 2 to 3 and then back again. And I want everyone, yes, and I want everyone to see that in your panel to the right under the handout panel is the, Greenville's responsible return to the office plan. And we will also post that on our website along with the recording of this webinar. Let me check. Go
And
ahead.
of course, I'm happy to share that with anyone as well in a editable format. If they don't have the ability to edit a PDF, should they like to rip off and duplicate, as we like to do in the chamber industry, or if there's just pieces of it that you would like to take, I'm happy to provide you with an easy to edit version. If you'd like, you could just email me and I'm happy to share.
Well, Liz, it doesn't look like we have any questions. Can you share your email one more time for people to email you, and then we'll wrap up the call?
Sure. It is lhorton@greenvillechamber.org.
Perfect. Thank you again for your time today. This is one of many COVID type webinars that we're doing. It's branded as such. Again, we will have the webinar recording on our ACCE website, along with the resource document that was provided today in your handout panel. Liz, as always, thank you so much for your support of ACCE, and everyone else. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.